Let's talk about PC part selection tips, PC building tips that not enough people talk about. Because, I was going to title PC building tips that no one talks about, but I figured someone might have talked about it. It just isn't talked about enough. So the first tip is join my Discord, follow me on Instagram, and comment if you have any questions. And the second tip is build your PC according to your room and your needs in particular. I think people don't keep their room in mind when they choose parts. So I see a lot of people ending up with a PC case that's not right for their room, that's not right for where they freaking live, things like that. So if you say stay near the equator like I do in Singapore and you don't use your air conditioning unit often, you always have your aircon on, something like that. If you're that kind of person, then you should be looking to get a PC that has higher F. Avoid cases like those ZXTech cases with a full flat front. Get something with a mesh front, something with more fans. Get more fans in there, get more airflow in there. Because if you live near the equator, I know your weather is sure as hell gonna be hot and spicy, and unless you want those fans inside your computer to be running at crazy high speed non-stop all day every day, which hurts your fans, hurts your ears, and even then your PC parts, your CPU and GPU might still be running very hot, which hurts their longevity. Get a high airflow case, get a PC build, get a PC setup that is suited for your weather and for your space restrictions. Another thing with space restrictions is if you have a very small room, you should really try to optimize your rig to be as quiet as possible, because if you're in a really small room, your PC is very near you. And if your computer is noisy, you're gonna have a bad time and you're gonna have to use closed back headphones at all times. And if you have a good pair of HD 600s that are open back and sound phenomenal, but your PC keeps going, you're not gonna have a good time. So optimize your PC for your room and for your needs. Second PC part building tip is stop blindly following guides on YouTube. I know there are a lot of good guides out there, but there's also a lot of bad guides out there. I think it's important that you educate yourself as much as possible. I'm not saying research every single aspect of every single part of your computer. I'm just saying learn a little bit and don't just kind of look at the first video guide you see and just copy it fully, because there are a few reasons why this doesn't make sense. Because first, prices and discounts and part choices, they're different everywhere. If a Ryzen 3300X is $150 in Canada and it's considered value. This is all made up numbers, by the way, for the record. But if it's $150 here in Singapore, and maybe the Intel equivalent is way cheaper and with the same amount of performance, it might be wise to go with the Intel choice here in Singapore, and you might not benefit from blindly following Linus Tech Tips guides or something like that. So make sure when you choose your part, base it off your local prices, base it off your local kind of needs. Be flexible and be educated so you don't get scammed and you can make the right purchase. The third PC part building tip is with regards to cable management. My belief is cable manage your PC before you even put the motherboard in. And this sounds kind of unorthodox, kind of weird, but I believe that if you have all your cables kind of in the right holes, at least roughly, that once you slide your motherboard in, that's all the hassle that's out of the way. Once you have all kind of the cables kind of pre-arranged to the rough places, your power supply is installed, all you have to do next is slide your motherboard in, screw it down, and then plug in the front panel connectors, the power supply connectors, put in your GPU and maybe your SSD or something. NVMe SSDs are king, obviously, but if you're using SATA hard drives, SSDs, all that, just plug all that in and have all your cables kind of pre-laid out before you put in your motherboard. Because once that motherboard is in there, you really have this big bulky piece of plastic silicon just kind of taking up space in your case. It makes it very hard to move around, maneuver around, get the right cables into the right spots. So my tip with PC building is always cable manage as much as possible, as much as you can before sliding your motherboard in, which is nice. The next tip is specifically for beginners. If you're building a PC and you are a beginner, get a case that is friendly to beginners. Don't jump straight in to a building experience with like a tiny super compact ITX case like the Vel case or the N case M1. As much as you might like those beautiful stunning form factor rigs, if you really want those kind of rigs, I would suggest you pay someone to build it for you if you're a complete beginner, because those kind of PC cases are insanely hard to build in unless you really know what you're doing, or you're prepared to spend hours and hours troubleshooting, figuring things out, and getting things just right. That is my recommendation. Get a case that's easy to build in. And what do I mean easy to build in? First, reasonably spacious. So at least an M-ATX case is my recommendation. Second, reasonably good amount of space behind the motherboard for cable management. Something like the TechWare Nexus 4Gem comes to mind. Another thing that would help you out a lot would be to have a PC case that comes with pre-installed motherboard standoffs, so you don't have to faff around and figure things out. And another thing will be to set up your PC configuration so that there are less cables to plug in. Things like using NVMe and eSATA SSDs instead of SATA SSDs and hard drives will mean that you don't have to plug in SATA power cables, SATA data cables, which add even more complexity to the rig. Simplify the rig. If you are a beginner, it is going to help you a lot. And if you want to ask more questions about how to simplify your rig to be more beginner build friendly, Discord, Instagram, or comment down below. My last and final PC building tip that no one talks about for today is gonna be buy all your parts at the same time. Now this one is kind of controversial. I think some people might not agree with this necessarily. I know, you make a couple $100 a month extra and you're like, okay, I want to buy my GPU like right now. But you don't have the money for the rest of your rig. Don't. Just hold off for another month and get a couple of $100 extra ready in your budget for the rig. Because when you build your PC, you just want to get it all done at once. You want to keep your PC part purchases as late as possible, because while a discount may come and go, it's likely to return, especially with newer and newer things coming out. So for example, 10/10 sales on Lazada, Shopee. The RTX 2080, excitingly cheap right now, and then people flock to it, buy to it, they're rushing their PC builds, and then a month later, what do you know? The RX 6000 series is out, the RTX 3000 series is out, bada bing, bada boom, and suddenly the RTX 2080 just drops and tanks in price, second-hand, brand new, and all that, because these new GPUs are out, making your old GPU that you bought a discounted price for pretty irrelevant. So buy all your parts at one go. Don't panic. Calm down. If you can't game, if you're desperately looking for a gaming system, just buy a PS5 or an Xbox Series X in the meantime while you're saving up for a proper PC. They're like $400. You can resell them for like $300. It's pretty good value if you just need a standby gaming rig, or you can just buy one and keep it. Okay, so that's it for my PC building part tip guide. PC building that no one talks about ever. If you have any questions you want to ask, once again, Discord, Instagram, comment section, boing. And if you have any suggestions for other PC building tips that not enough people talk about, do tell me in the comments down below, and I will be sure to feature you in the next video. Alright? I'm gonna head out. See you soon. Oh shit, I forgot to say that from my last video. Peace. I shouldn't say peace. Peace is MTBHD. See you soon.